Welcome to the Why Not Today podcast, where we celebrate courage, determination, and the power of saying, why not today? I am your host, Leslie Kane, and in each episode, we dive into inspiring stories of individuals who have taken bold steps, face their fears, and embrace the possibility of today. From entrepreneurs to artists, dreamers to doers, we explore the moments when they said, enough is enough, and why not today? Join me as we uncover the heartwarming, the audacious, and the transformative. Whether it's pursuing a lifetime passion, overcoming obstacles, or simply choosing joy, our guests share their journeys and inspire us all. I started this podcast in honor of my father, Patrick Kane, who often did say, why not today? And I always say, remember, you're just one decision away from changing your life, and why not today? So, my guest today is Elizabeth Bainbridge, and she has a company called To the Nines Events. Did I get it right?
Yes, you did. To the
Oh,
Nines
yeah.
events.
And I always talk about where we connected. And it's kind of fun. I worked for the YMCA for 13 years. And um, I think the first time we met was at a YMCA. I had a table where we met
Mhm.
at something there, which is funny. Bianca was there this morning from the Y, and I met her first event as an employee, and Fiona, her daughter, was in a sack in front of her, teeny tiny baby. She's like, I've known you for 8 years, which is crazy.
Wow.
So that's where we met, and our paths just keep crisscrossing and connecting, and seeing you in the community and in networking and all the things. And I've admired what you've done, and your events are amazing. And so I know you've got a great journey of taking adversity and moving it into a business. And I'm calling it the Why Not Today formula, that people literally have a formula of how they make those why not today decisions. So we're going to talk about courage and all those things in a minute. But first, Elizabeth, why don't you introduce yourself and a fun fact about you?
Sure. I'm Elizabeth Bainbridge with To the Nines Events. We are a full service event production company spanning the event spectrum from weddings to nonprofit galas to corporate sales conferences. We basically plan any type of event. A
And
fun,
really cool ones.
oh, thank you. Thank you. A fun fact about me, I am a mom to a really sweet and cool 9-year-old little boy named Henry. Um, and I love to hang out with him, play sports with him, garden with him, cook with him, whatever he wants to do, I'm in.
That is a great description of Henry. He's a cool kid.
Yeah,
He
he
has a
is.
cool vibe. And I know you brought him to a network night a couple months
Oh,
ago.
bless him. I could not believe how social he was with a bunch of
Well,
adults.
what amazing skills you can teach him is bringing him out. And I remember going to things with my dad all the
Yeah.
time. But one time I took my niece, who at that point was like 5 or 6, and we went out to dinner with a friend of mine from college and her 5 or 6 year old. Well, my niece, who she was the first of all the grandchildren,
Mhm.
and so she was very much hanging out with adults.
Yeah.
And so we were having dinner, and I'll never forget it. We were in Georgetown at this restaurant. This child at 5 or 6 is standing up, commanding the attention of every adult in the room.
It's
Like,
great.
those are great skills that,
Yes. Yes.
we need to teach them those skills instead of being afraid to talk to people.
Yeah. Being social is really helpful.
Yeah, amazing how that
Really
works.
is. Yeah.
So, well, I'm excited to have you on the podcast,
Thank you
and
for having me.
you briefly told me your story, but before we talk about your story, what does courage mean to Elizabeth?
Well, I've been thinking about it. I have been thinking about it because I wanted to be prepared.
Okay,
I
did you
think
look it up?
no, I did not look it up.
The
I was
only person
like,
that
well,
looked it up in the dictionary was my brother.
yes, I will. I was not going to look it up, but I was thinking about what it means to me and others, and I feel like there's so many levels of courage. There's the physical and mental courage to get you to like climb Mount Kilimanjaro. There's the emotional courage to get back out there after a hard breakup and start dating again. There's so many types of courage. Um, but to me, courage is really having faith in yourself
I
and
like
believing in yourself to go do whatever it is that is on your mind, whether it's to, do the rest and try sprint. It's
it. You
to,
do it?
I did it in 2019.
Okay.
I would totally do it again, but I keep traveling every weekend.
And I may have been there volunteering. I was not doing it, but I was volunteering, I think,
But it
that year.
was it was a great experience as a planner.
Yeah.
It was so well planned. or it's to, are you moving cross country for a job? You
Right.
know, I just think courage is something different to everybody, but for me, it really is having faith in yourself. Um,
Love that.
yeah.
And courage is different every day and every moment sometimes.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah. So, all right. So you have an interesting journey. So you started a business,
I
but
did.
was it always something that you wanted to do?
Oh,
Or
no,
was no? And was
no.
there, and I know it came out of adversity, but was there a why not today moment that you thought, all right, I'm just doing this, or something happened, or where you were, like when you had this pivotal thought, like I'm going to
A-
start a
ab-
business.
Absolutely. Like, I was living in San Francisco, um, and I was working for a corporate concierge company. So basically, we planned small events, did some concierge services, and the company that I was working for, they only catered to the .com industry, which at the time was a good business plan. But when the first .com bust happened in 2000, that company that I was working for went under, and what, half of San Francisco and the Bay Area was unemployed. And
Wow.
so it was a really tough time living in San Francisco. Um, and so I was like, well, I need a job. I'm living in the most expensive city in the country, if not the world at the time. And I needed to pay rent. I needed to put food on my table. Um, and so I was desperately applying for any type of event job because that was my background. And no one was hiring because a company would rather pay their employees than throw a huge holiday party.
Hmm.
I totally got. And so a friend of mine was getting married, and he asked me to help him and his now wife of 20 some odd years.
Had you always been in the event space?
I had been involved in the events world for a couple of years by then, and I also credit my mom for getting me into the event world. My dad was a priest, an Episcopal priest, and so she threw open houses a couple of times a year. So I learned how to make floral arrangements and polish silver and cook, prep food. And so I
And
always loved.
that is definitely a skill. As a
Yes,
friend told me, it's what she calls good home training, like that you know how to put on an event. I remember I was doing an event one time and I had somebody on my team helping me, and I was doing chocolate covered strawberries. Well, I just got a jar of chocolate sauce and a
right.
pretty bowl, and I said, "Can you fix that up?" So she poured it in and then left the jar sitting next to the pretty bowl.
Oh yeah,
I'm
no,
like, no, 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 no. I'm
no,
like, that is not good home training. But
right.
she wasn't modeled that. And we are not on in my family ever, still to this day, allowed to put a plastic container. Like you cannot have a ketchup. It has to be in a little ramekin.
Oh
Like
yes.
my mother will not.
Yeah, so I learned a lot from my mom, and I really enjoy. And then in college and high school and college, I was always on student government and was involved in homecomings and the proms and whatever. And so I always enjoyed the organizing, seeing something come to fruition. And so with with the wedding that I helped plan, there's some really good stories with that wedding that might be saved for another time. And from that wedding, I got two more referrals, and so I'm like, oh, well, maybe this is what I want to do. I didn't know if I really wanted to do weddings, but I was like, I can do this on my own. But just to kind of see if that's what I really wanted to do, I did take on a full-time job with a destination management company, which gave me a little bit more of a foundation of with event planning skills. And I learned some new to me vendors. And a year later, in September of 2001, I started my own business.
So were you somewhere doing something you remember that pivotal why not say moment that you remember when you're like, I'm just got to do my own thing, or something happened that propelled
Yes,
you to that?
the destination management company that I was working for questioned the death of my nana.
Wow.
Yes, I was already taking some time off for a friend's wedding back east. And the weekend before that friend's wedding, my nana passed. And my mom asked me to come out early for the to help pack up her house and help my mom go through some things. And when I told my manager that I needed extra time, she basically said, "Isn't that convenient that your nana has died and you need more time?"
Yeah, you planned that, right?
Terrible, terrible. And so when I returned from that weekend, um, I provided my manager with two obits from two newspapers, the program from her memorial. And then
Like,
I
why
gave
would you ever make that stuff up?
I know it would just, I was just like, it just hurt me because I'm like, I had done it, I was a good employee. I had, I whatever, but whatever. And
Wow.
then with that, I also provided my 2 weeks notice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And
Because
like,
like it, as you say, life is too short to
yeah.
be in a job that's unhappy or a relationship that's not making you happy or whatever. And so that was really what drove me to start my own business. So in the beginning, I was the employee of the month every month. So, I treated myself with
Yeah.
kindness that I didn't get at my past job. So,
Right. And, we were earlier today at an event with a panel of women just talking about social responsibility and the culture and things they do for companies. And then you hear a story like that.
oh, it
Um,
was, yeah.
Somebody else recently, I had a luncheon and this woman spoke, and she was, for context of story, an African American woman who was recovering from cancer. And somebody junior to her, not even her boss, but at a meeting said that indicated she was taking too much time off. And she said she stood up and said, I cannot believe you just said that. A Black African American woman who has cancer, that you would say that. You know how many lawsuits I can throw at you?
I
She
just
didn't do
can't.
it, but I'm like, how stupid can you
I
be?
just, oh, it's
I'm like,
just heartbreaking too. It's just
yeah,
heartbreaking too, because, I'm sure she was a loyal and dedicated employee, had 2 feet in wearing her company's jersey. And then she kind of gets that. That's just really, really
yeah.
unfortunate.
And unfortunately, so many people are in that situation.
Yeah.
I am blessed that I have owned my own business for 30 years and quit my full-time job 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And so, I've had that flexibility. And I always tell the story, when my dad had a stroke, I was able to stop everything and be there. When he passed away,
Yes.
I was sad and I didn't want to work, and I didn't
Yeah.
for months. And, my business took care of me because I took care of it.
Mhm.
So, all right. So you started the business. Has it always been unicorns and rainbows?
Oh, of course not.
Which people think when you own your own business, it is.
Of course
And
not. Of
and
course not. So during that time, I was working at a friend's restaurant. I was working front of house. I was a server. Didn't think I would ever go back into the restaurant world. But again, that all ties into providing good service as an
have,
event planner.
have
You know,
you
you,
read Unreasonable Hospitality yet?
no, I
Oh,
need
you
to.
gotta get it. Oh yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it applies to everything. And I keep quoting this book, and even a pastor of a church recently posted it as one of his top 2 books of the year. But it's from somebody um, that has a restaurant in New York City, and he built, came from nothing, built it up to the #1 restaurant in the world.
Oh my, I definitely want to read that. Like,
But talks about just, the and then some service.
oh, absolutely. Like when I become president, not that I really want the job, but when I become president, everyone has to be in the service industry for a year. Like
Absolutely.
pick
Like,
whatever it is, pick whatever
yeah.
it is, because people treat, I've seen it and I've been,
Oh, it's awful.
it's awful. It's
Yeah.
awful. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so this book is amazing and talks about that. But yeah, what a powerful job. And I always say too, people that are servers, they own their own business. So they're great
Yeah.
entrepreneurs because
Yes,
you could make or break
absolutely.
your tips.
Yeah. So I've been in some form of service industry since high school. Um,
So
but
you're
yes,
talking
it
about
hasn't
working at the
been
restaurant.
right. It hasn't been all hearts and flowers. Like I didn't just hang up my shingle and I just was fighting off clients. I still had to supplement income working at my friend's restaurant. I went to a lot of networking events. I took a business law class, but I hadn't taken any other business classes. So I took classes at the Small Business Association in San Francisco, and some other, there was an organization called WISE. It was Women's Initiative for Self-Employment. I took classes there. So I was taking a lot of classes, learning what I could learn. I found a mentor through Small Business Association. I had joined an event industry networking event, a networking group called ILEA, International Live Events Association. So I did what I could to get myself out there, to learn new, to meet new people, learn new to me vendors, and find clients. And I was very lucky kind of early on. I got some really good corporate clients, or I worked with some larger event production companies that where I had access to some larger events. Like I helped with one event for 7 years in a row until I had Henry. I was a sales conference for 5,000 people, a multi-day
Wow,
sales conference for 5,000 people in Las Vegas. We took over multiple venues, but all those experiences really helped me build my business, build my confidence, build my courage, and build my client base. So I'm really grateful for all the experiences that I've had leading up to really my business being successful and sustainable within like 3 to 4 years.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And it is the things we learn as a kid, and those things, lessons we pick up is along the way in businesses that people we work for and things we do. That when we have that pivotal, like, okay, I need to do something different. All those experiences you take with you, you have those in your toolbox
Yeah.
to use. Um, and it does take courage to do it, and it's not always perfect, and you have that
No.
adversity. And so, when did you start your business?
In September of 2001, actually
Okay,
the week of 9/11.
I was going to say that was a very pivotal point in my business.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, starting a business then, I'm sure nobody planned that date, but I
No.
remember as a Mary Kay director sitting there on the couch watching TV and living in DC. I think was a different experience. That I think it was more intensified here.
Oh, absolutely.
And like I've
Absolutely.
heard, with sitting in there listening to the the fighter jets flying over. The water treatment plant had tanks with
Mhm.
machine guns. And so I just remember thinking, who wants to buy lipstick? How can I possibly
Yeah.
ever get my
Yeah.
business going? And so somebody just said, start calling people, just start having conversations. And we shared our experience
Mhm.
and how it affected us because it affected,
Yes.
so many people, especially around here. Um,
Well, I had
but
already planned. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
go ahead.
I said had already planned my launch event for that Thursday. I had sent out invitations about a month prior. I had already had the venue set. I had a caterer. I had everything. And I remember calling up a friend on that Tuesday. I'm like, I should just cancel. Like, no one wants to be celebrating. No one wants to be. And they're like, no, people want to be together.
Yeah.
People want to gather. And so maybe about, most of the people that I invited did show. It was about 30 people. And that was perfect. It was perfect. There was no hard sales pitch. It was just celebrating something new happening, celebrating being together and
And
being
I think
okay.
that was such an important message then, and is today, but I think we forget it. Like we want to gather, we want to build community, we want to build connections, we want to be around like-minded people. And especially when things are going bad, you want that camaraderie, those friendships, those connections. And
Absolutely.
just to be able to talk or tell your story or
Mhm.
say how it's affecting you. And then you moved to Virginia from San Francisco. So that must have been another shift in your world
It was
and
a
your
big shift.
business.
We moved here in December of 18. A majority of my business is still back in California, so I'm grateful for that. But I'll tell you what's been really exciting about being here is learning new to me venues, like around the Northern Virginia area and into DC, learning new to me vendors, caterers, rental companies, florists, entertainers, and also just getting to know new people. Like you and I, as you mentioned, you and I have also crossed paths at the chamber, which has been really fun to get to know people there, or just going to do like that event this morning.
Yeah.
That was really wonderful. And so it's given me some opportunities to grow here too. You had mentioned the Y. I am on the YMCA board. I've been there since uh, January of 2001, I think.
Oh,
Right? Or 2002. I don't know. But
wow.
it's been really nice to be a part of the
Well,
board and be a
it
part of it.
wasn't 2001 or 2002 because you haven't lived here that long.
Oh no, I moved here in 18.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I have
No,
been
but
here.
you said 2001, 2020.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry,
I was
2020.
like, that math is not working.
Oh, I'm glad you're paying attention, Leslie. I'm glad you're paying attention. Yes. So I think I joined in 2022. Excuse
Okay,
me.
gotcha.
Yes.
And
Glad
then,
you're
of
paying
course,
attention to me, Leslie.
the next thing we had to navigate all is COVID. And
Yes.
again, a lipstick business when we gathered with people or an event business, we
Yeah.
had get creative.
Yes. Fortunately, my nonprofit clients went virtual because a nonprofit can't take time off from
Right.
major fundraising. And so that was really great. And then I learned a new skill, live streaming.
Exactly. I
Who
did
knew?
too. Yeah.
Zooming, everything. So that was really good. And I'm glad that I was able to be of assistance to my nonprofit clients.
Yeah. And I think as entrepreneurs, I think one of the skills or one of the hats we have to wear is to be able to be flexible and be able to pivot.
Yes.
That, it's not cookie cutter. It's, every business has to do that. But when you're working for somebody, um, you didn't have to pivot and it wasn't so life changing when you
Right.
had to make such a big pivot. But when you
Yes.
own your own business, you need to be able to pivot and say,
Mm.
okay, should I do it now or should I do it later? Or, okay, I got to figure out this virtual. And just
Right.
like when you started your business, you had to learn new skills on
Mhm.
how to do virtual. And I had to do the same thing.
Right.
And aren't we glad we have those extra tools in our toolbox now?
Right. And one of my corporate clients, I did some really nice luxury gift boxes for their employees all over the world.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of fun. That was a new skill, like shopping on somebody else's dime. Not a bad
Yeah.
gig if you
And
can
I
get it.
think and I think goes back to too, people are looking for experiences. I helped a local restaurant during COVID
Yeah.
with the doors were closed. So my friend hired me to be creative. And we did pizza making kits. And she's like,
Yes.
who would want to do that? I'm like, somebody with a kid or it's a fun thing.
Yes.
Or we had picnic blankets and we did a picnic to go. Uh,
Nice.
so we did, we tried to do creative things, which I think when we have adversity, we have to pivot and get more creative.
Absolutely. I bought a cookie making kit from a baker out in San Francisco.
Yeah,
And also you want to support those businesses. You
exactly.
don't want to see them close.
No,
Same with you,
right,
like as a small business, I like to support the small businesses. And, and even a chain because my neighbor is probably working there. You want to support those
right.
businesses because it employs your neighbors, it employs your friends, feeds your friends.
I remember one of my neighbors, I overheard him talking to his son and goes, and he had a corporate job and his paycheck was not affected. And
Mhm.
people that did have a steady paycheck and they still had work and it wasn't affecting them, but they probably had more money in their pockets. They weren't spending it.
Right.
So my neighbor told his son, he said, we're not going to buy toys or things we don't need. We're going to invest our money in our community and going out to eat and
Yeah.
buying things from local people and help
Yeah.
keep the community going.
Yeah, we bought a lot of gift cards from
Yeah.
restaurants during COVID and passed them out to friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the good things. So,
Yeah.
we often start businesses from a pivot. We have that why not today moment.
Mhm.
We start it because it's something in our heart that we want to do. And it's not an easy journey. It's a hard journey,
Yeah.
but it's such a worthwhile journey, isn't it?
Yes, it's very rewarding. And I tell you, my son loves the fact that I own my own business. He thinks it's really neat.
Yeah. And
Um,
he will more than likely be an entrepreneur. My dad owns his own business, and I watched him and I asked people
yeah.
that are in the entrepreneur space, did your parents work for somebody else or work for themselves? And my dad worked hard and he was there for soccer games. He was there for dinner. Often after dinner, he'd go back. He had an office in the house. He'd go back to work.
Mhm.
But, and they also say with kids, more things are taught than taught.
Mhm.
So he will learn more about life skills and people skills, which he already has, which we talked about.
Yes. After his birthday last year, he said, "Okay, mom, my theme for my birthday this year is going to be." I'm like, "Oh, dude, like, let's wait." Like he was already ready to plan his next.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody the other day used to do event planning, and she's like, and of course, my daughter for her sixth, eighth birthday has a balloon arch.
Of course, of
'Cause,
course. Yes.
that's what we do.
Yeah.
So if somebody's listening today and thinking, that thing's just kind of churning in them, like, I want to do something more. There's something in me. What can I do? How would you encourage somebody to take that leap, to start the business, to just take that? And it is just that first step. How would you
Well,
encourage somebody else?
it's interesting that you asked that question. So when I was first starting my business, I did reach out to some other event planners, and at that time, no one. It wasn't as at that time. Um, it wasn't as a collaborative spirit as I feel like it is now. Like no one wanted to talk to me. They just looked at me as competition. And so from that, I decided that I wanted my business to participate in the internship program in the hospitality and tourism department at San Francisco State University. And so I've had an intern almost every semester for about 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Yes, because no one wanted to help me.
Yeah,
So I decided I wanted to help others. And
that's
so almost
awesome.
all of my interns, I've been able to either hire them or have found them jobs. So I know that's a long-winded story, but what I think is really important is if there's an industry that's of interest to you, or there's a hobby that's of interest to you, but you're a little weary about, taking that next step, find somebody who's in that industry or is knowledgeable about that hobby, or you want to write a book, find somebody who's done it before, and just ask them to sit down with you for like 30 minutes to an hour, buy them lunch, buy them coffee, and just start with that and ask them how they started, what was their ups and downs, and then learn from that. And I think more often people do want to talk about their journey, and they
Oh,
want to
absolutely.
encourage other people to take those steps. I know I do. And so that's what I would suggest.
Love that. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's so true. Like ask somebody where you want to be. Just start talking to people, I found.
Yeah.
And just you'll get ideas and energy talking to somebody else.
Yes, I think connecting and communicating is super helpful in finding what you want to do in your next life, or if you want to take your career, or you want to take a hobby and turn it into a business. Having those conversations with the people who are already in it is very helpful,
Yeah,
and you'll find that
absolutely.
most people do want to have that conversation with you.
Absolutely. And we all want to help. And I had
Yes.
somebody reach out the other day that wants to do a podcast. And I'm like, I'll help you. I'll teach you.
Yeah.
It's we want to help each other and bring people along. And I guess from my vantage point with Mary Kay, we were not competitive. If you already had a Mary Kay consultant, we're like, good, yay, and go back to that consultant.
Right.
And so just like you, your neighbor's a Mary Kay consultant. I've not been out
Yes.
trying to sell you Mary Kay products. But
Right.
coming alongside, and Mary Kay always said, if you have an idea and I have an idea and we share it, then we both have two ideas.
Yes.
So like being collaborative is so important. And I think this area, I don't know about the rest of the country, but this area does do that well,
Mhm.
helping
Yeah.
and collaborating. So,
Yeah. I
well,
would
thank
agree.
you for sharing your courage and your stories. And I'm excited for other people to listen and hopefully give them courage. And if somebody's listening that's thinking, I want to be in the event planning space, then reach out to Elizabeth. So I'm going
Absolutely.
to share all your contact information with the show notes. Is there any place in particular is the best place to connect with you?
Through my website or Instagram. Those are the best ways to reach me.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
these days everybody's got all the different things.
I
So,
know.
well,
Yeah.
thank you for
Thank
sharing your
you, Leslie.
story,
This was fun. Thank
wasn't
you
it?
so
And
much.
thank you,
I'm
thank you,
humbled that you had
everybody.
me on your show. Thank you.
So much fun. So thank you, everybody, for joining us on this inspiring journey. Remember, every day is an opportunity to take action, choose your dream, and make a difference. So why not today? So make sure you subscribe, share the podcast, and review it. And you can find everything you need to know about the Why Not Today podcast on all the places, but also the website is whynottodaypodcast.com. So thank you, Elizabeth. And until
Thank
next
you,
time,
Leslie.
everybody, remember, why not today?